Hey YouTube, Wheelchair 21, and this is another Doyle's DVDs. This is for the Intercontinental Championship too, man. It's the history of, well, the Intercontinental Championship. Well, let me start off with saying, when the history of Intercontinental Championship was getting put into production to make this compilation DVD set, you were allowed to vote on some of the matches that would be put into the set. And, well, I did vote, and at least, about a good, maybe 2/3 of these matches were put in. And, I gotta say, I give it to the fans. Thanks for voting with me. I'm glad to vote with you, and glad we have the same interests. I mean, usually all fans know what are the best matches for the Intercontinental Championship. Stupid light flashing off my title. Can't even see my title, you know? This thing right here. Well, anyway, we all start off with Todd Grisham giving little, speeches in between every other match. And our very first match is Patterson versus Ted Dibaiase Sr. for the Intercontinental Championship. Following that, well, that was actually in October of '79. Following that, our next match is October of 1980. Ken Patera versus Pedro Morales. Morales, I believe, would go on to win the championship, and about 2 years later, we would have a giant brawl between Pedro Morales and Muraco. These two had it out for each other in '82. These guys were just going all over the place in December of '82. And I don't remember who won that match. I'm pretty sure it had to be Muraco. And I watched bits and pieces of these past few matches lately, and I'm only working with what I can remember. But these earlier matches were great matches, but they just don't capture my interest. And as we go into it on Disc 1, next is Muraco versus Snuka, the steel cage match, the epic match where Snuka jumped off the top of the steel cage at Madison Square Garden, and it's remembered to this day, followed by Tito Santana versus Greg the Hammer Valentine, and in a Lumberjack match, followed by Santana versus Randy the Macho Man Savage. For the title, Macho Man would win it. Then following that, at WrestleMania the following year, it would be Macho Man versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, one of the best high-flying matches in its earlier stages of the day of high-flying careers. Following that would be the Honky Tonk Man's first Intercontinental Championship win in June of '87, which would go on for him to lose it 2 years later to the Ultimate Warrior at SummerSlam. Ultimate Warrior would then go on to hold it for almost a year, where Rick Rude would steal it from him at that the following WrestleMania, and he would win it back at that following SummerSlam of '89. Ultimate Warrior, as we all know, would go on to become WWE Champion, and also that match with Rick Rude is one of my favorites because it's one of my first ever pre-Attitude Era matches that I ever saw. I'm going to go into more detail once I slowly go through all the matches. The next match to start off with Disc 2 is Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect at SummerSlam. Always at SummerSlam, Intercontinental matches usually go up. They always step up in game. I mean, recently we had, last year, Rey Mysterio versus Dolph Ziggler. That was a really good Intercontinental match at SummerSlam. Most of the time, you always see really good Intercontinental Championship matches at SummerSlam. I mean, every time I've watched a SummerSlam, there's usually a really good Intercontinental Championship match, and there's usually a really good WWE Championship match. Following that is, yet again, SummerSlam of '92, the year I was born. Hart versus the British Bulldog in the UK. One of the best matches, I believe, everyone's ever said between the two competitors. Following that is WrestleMania 10. The first ever ladder match, I believe, at WrestleMania with Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels for the vacated championship. I think it was vacated at the time. And Razor Ramon would win that. And following that, we'd go into Royal Rumble of '95. Ramon versus Jeff Jarrett. Yes, TNA's Jeff Jarrett. The man WWE, I think, hates a lot, who would win it at the Royal Rumble. We then jump 2 years to almost the end of 1997 at In Your House at D-Generation X. Austin versus The Rock, one of the first time these two would meet. And I believe I haven't seen that match since I got this DVD set. I probably should have gone over a lot of these matches, but I'm mostly going to be talking about my top matches, but I'm pretty sure it was a good match. I think that led up to the one where Austin throws it off the bridge, the Intercontinental Championship off the bridge, I believe, or was the WWF Championship. I don't really remember. But following that, we have Triple H versus The Rock at Fully Loaded the following year in a 2 out of 3 falls match. Really great match between them. DX got involved, the Nation of Domination got involved, and it was just one great 2 out of 3 falls match. I wish there was more of them with these guys in it back then. And to end it, we have the first ever Good Housekeeping match, which was the first time a woman ever won the WWE Intercontinental Championship, and that was Chyna from Jeff Jarrett in '99. Now, every disc is broken up from the 80s and from the 80s, 90s, and 2000. To start off the 2000, we have Jericho and Angle at that year's No Way Out of 2000. One of my favorite matches I've seen recent years. It's on Jericho's Breaking the Code. A lot of these matches with Jericho you'll end up seeing on Breaking the Code, and I'll be talking about them more on Breaking the Code, The Walls of Jericho. Following that, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Jericho, X-Pac, SmackDown that same year, followed by the following year when Jeff Hardy upset Triple H. It was one of the biggest upsets because Jeff Hardy was, over the past couple of years, was establishing himself as a tag team wrestler, but now he was becoming a singles wrestler. Then we have Hardy and Rob Van Dam, European Championship versus the Intercontinental Championship on Raw, ladder match. Oh, that's one of my favorite matches from my early childhood, from but starting to watch wrestling in the following years, '02. That was a great match. We then skipped to, Randy Orton Edge of '04. That was a great match. That was right off of Edge's injury that he had, him coming back, right around the time he started to shift and transition into the Rated R Superstar. And then we all know that Orton had it for a while. I don't remember who got it off of Orton, but damn the phone. We're just gonna ignore that. After Orton, it was, the next match is Flair versus Triple H at Taboo Tuesday in a steel cage match. That was a really bloody match between the two. It was a great match. I can't believe, Ric Flair, a person his age, they would allow to have a championship of, like, huge proportions. I mean, if you would have had it a little earlier on when he was a WWF superstar in '92, it would have been cool having someone as prestigious as him. I mean, it was still prestigious having him hold it, and it means a lot for someone like him to have that belt. So, I applaud it. He held it for a pretty long time. And following that, we had the Backlash winner-take-all match, Money in the Bank versus Intercontinental Championship, RVD, Shelton Benjamin. Benjamin, one of the greatest athletes, I think, who was underrated at times, who didn't get the right props he deserved in WWE. He got, early on, he got a lot, and then they turned him into a heel. Then they finally started turning him back into face right before they stopped his contract last year after TLC around that time. So, I mean, he was a great Intercontinental Champion. He's like I gotta say, he's one like Mr. Perfect. No matter what you were, even though you didn't become a true champion, you were a great Intercontinental Champion, and that's something you need to say, because Intercontinental Champion is the best thing out there next to being the champion. This makes you a champion. And right now, if you can probably hear my music, I just finished watching Jericho's 8th time winning the Intercontinental Championship from Jeff Hardy, which is the last match on this disc. But before we get there, it's Carlito, Morrison, Benjamin of '06, Vengeance, one of the best triple threat Intercontinental Championship matches I can ever recall from, actually seeing it live and watching it on TV or whatever. And it was just great, actually, seeing that match. It was perfect. I mean, they did high flying. They did what those guys were supposed to do. Intercontinental Championship was established to be a light heavyweight championship, somewhere in between light heavyweight and heavyweight, where you could still do all these agile moves, all these real competitive moves. It's like the X division of the WWE. I mean, the X division is mostly around cruiserweights and really light heavyweights, but man, this really is a title for champions. Jeff Meacham, the guy who does No DQ and NoDQ.com Talk Wrestling, he knows what he's talking about. You need to go watch his show. It's great. It's now a 5-minute segment every week instead of a half-hour segment he used to do. But Jeff Meacham, I applaud you, man. You do a great show on ODQ.com for Talk Wrestling. And then the following match after that triple threat is Hardy and Umaga, the Great American Bash, and then Hardy-Jericho, which is the last match. Jericho's 8th time as Intercontinental Champion. That was because they gave it to Jericho because it was going into the Money in the Bank match, and Jeff Hardy was getting suspended for doing drugs. Because Hardy loves to do his drugs. I mean, Hardy's a great wrestler, great competitor. He's not good on the mic, but he is very charismatic in the ring, and I applaud him. He's one of my favorite superstars next to Jericho in that, so it's great. I mean, this DVD set holds a lot of good matches. I mean, most of the matches were ones that I voted for this set, and some of them I didn't vote for, but damn, I love these matches. Disc 1, we had Snuka off the Snuka off the cage match. Great match. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Randy Macho Man Savage. WrestleMania 3. Great match. Really competitive, like I said. Truly established Intercontinental Championships. Honky Tonk Man's lost to Ultimate Warrior. Just established Ultimate Warrior's career. Then that match with him and Rick Rude. Great match at SummerSlam. The next 2 matches on Disc 2 about the freaking SummerSlams with Bret Hart. Hart really established himself great with the Intercontinental Championship and the WWF Championship. Michaels establishing himself even further with that ladder match. The Triple H, The Rock brought up some of their greatest rivalry moments just because of, like, earlier matches they had for this title. I mean, there's a good Intercontinental Championship match where they're in a ladder match on the ladder match DVD set, and it's worth watching. Following that, you have the establishing Chris Jericho in WWE, WWF. Jericho's there, and he's doing what he can. I mean, most of Disc 3, you'll only see, like, these 4 names. Jericho, Hardy, Benjamin, and, actually it's just 3. Just 3 repetitive names. Benjamin, Hardy, and Jericho. And, Jericho, really established himself in the 2000s as an Intercontinental Champion. So did Jeff Hardy. And it's great. I mean, oh yeah, Shelton Benjamin and RVD, but, like, these matches are great. I remember seeing most of those matches on Disc 3. Almost every match from 02 to 08 I saw because they were either televised on television or I saw the pay-per-view. And they're really great matches. I don't know, I'm kind of speechless because there was great athleticism, great competition between it. I know wrestling's fake and it's all entertainment, but when you at least understand it's not real, but you at least pretend it is real, like, actually get drawn into it for the storylines, the plots, and kind of like the wrestling matches, the true wrestling, just by being that athletic and able to do some of the stuff they do. It really makes you enjoy it. I mean, I don't really care. I'm not like a diehard guy where I'm like some kind of jackass where it's like, oh, you mess with my guy, I get all pissed off and flip out, or it's like, you say it's fake, I get pissed off. I only defend it for what it is. It's great entertainment. It might be lousy to some of you guys. Redneck people might think it's actually real and get pissed off at me. I don't really care. I mean, just when you watch Intercontinental Championship, the history of the Intercontinental Championship, you know what wrestling is truly about from these superstars. You have some of the best ever champions, and some of the, well, best to ever just be where they were, because they never became WWE Champion, World Heavyweight Champion. But they were established their careers by holding this belt, at least. I believe it. This is a true career-establishing belt. I mean, titles don't mean anything in wrestling, really, I think Vince said once, but I think if you make the title, it establishes what it is. Like, the title, some titles make you like being a world champion, but other titles, the wrestlers and their matches make it. The wrestlers make the title. The title doesn't make the man, really. And that's the thing. Like, WWE champions. It makes your career if you suck, but you're getting up there and it's really, like, your career is branching off and going, making it successful. WWE Championship made Sheamus. WWE Championship's gonna make The Miz. WWE Championship made John Cena. And that. But the Intercontinental Championship, it made Jericho. It made Hardy. It made perfect. RVD. This title, this one right here, even though it's a toy replica, just what it means in real life, like the real true thing. They made this title. It represented them. It proved who they were. And there's nothing you can say against this belt. I mean, the design some people might not love. I love it. I mean, the real deal is gorgeous. I've seen, like, the actual, like, replicas and stuff. It's great. But all I gotta say is, the real deal is, wrestlers make the title. In some cases, the title makes the wrestler. But it all depends. Like I say, wrestlers made this title. The WWE Championships makes the wrestler. So, hey, this is Doyle's DVDs, and I am out. And guess what? You can't see me!